Dear students, by the end of this lecture, you will be able to do 6 things. First, you will be able to describe the overall architecture of Scottish education from the early years right through to the senior phase of secondary school. Second, you will be able to explain where chemistry sits inside that architecture and how the subject is delivered at every stage. Third, you will be able to name and describe the role of every key institution that governs Scottish education, including Education Scotland, the Scottish Qualifications Authority, and the General Teaching Council for Scotland. Fourth, you will understand the difference between Curriculum for Excellence and the Senior Phase Qualifications, and why this distinction matters for every chemistry teacher. Fifth, you will be able to describe what a PGDE actually is, what your year will look like, and how it leads into your career. And sixth, you will leave this lecture with a clear sense of professional identity, knowing exactly what kind of teacher you are training to become. That is the destination. Now let us begin the journey, why this topic matters. Dear students, before I explain a single fact, I want you to understand why this lecture matters. Many PGDE students start their course thinking, I just want to teach chemistry. Why do I need to learn about the system? That is a very natural thought. But let me give you the honest answer. Imagine you are an excellent driver, but somebody drops you in a country where you have never driven before. You do not know the road signs. You do not know which side of the road to drive on. You do not know the speed limits. You do not know what the police expect from you. You do not know where the petrol stations are. Even though you can drive beautifully, you will struggle, and you may even cause an accident. Teaching chemistry without understanding the Scottish education system is exactly the same. You may have a brilliant chemistry brain, but if you do not understand the road you are driving on, you will not be able to take your pupils where they need to go. Every lesson plan you write, every exam paper you mark, every parents' evening you attend, every observation your mentor performs, every report you complete, all these things sit inside a Scottish system with its own values, its own vocabulary, and its own legal expectations. So this lecture is the map. Once you understand the map, every later lecture in this course will fit naturally into place, like jigsaw pieces clicking into a frame you already know. Now, let us start with the very big picture, and then we will zoom in step by step. The big picture of Scottish education. Dear students, Scotland has its own education system. This is something that surprises some students who arrive from outside Scotland, but it is a vital point. Scotland is part of the United Kingdom, but education in Scotland is fully devolved. That means that the Scottish Government, sitting at Holyrood in Edinburgh, has full responsibility for schools, qualifications, teacher education, and curriculum. Scotland does not follow the English national curriculum. Scotland does not use GCSEs or A-levels. Scotland has its own qualifications, its own curriculum, its own inspectorate, and its own teacher registration body. So when I say Scottish chemistry teaching, I mean a system that is genuinely distinct. Now imagine the system as a long staircase that a child climbs from the age of 3 to the age of 18. At the bottom of the staircase, the child enters early years education at age 3 or 4, in a nursery or a local authority early years centre. From age 5, the child enters primary school, which lasts for 7 years, from primary 1 to primary 7. At around age 12, the child moves into secondary school, which is where you, as a chemistry teacher, will work. Secondary school in Scotland lasts for 6 years, from S1 to S6, and it is here that the chemistry teaching journey unfolds. After S6, pupils may move into university, college, modern apprenticeship, or employment. Now, that staircase, from age 3 to age 18, is governed by one big curriculum framework called Curriculum for Excellence, which everyone in Scottish education abbreviates to CFE. Hold that name in your mind, students. Curriculum for Excellence, CFE. You will hear that phrase every day of your career. CFA is not a syllabus. CFA is a philosophy and a framework. It is a way of thinking about what education is for, and it gives teachers professional freedom to design learning that meets pupils' needs. So the first big point I want you to remember is this. From age 3 to age 15, every learner in Scotland is on a Curriculum for Excellence journey. Then from age 15 onwards, they enter what we call the senior phase, where they take SQA qualifications such as National 5, Higher, and Advanced Higher Chemistry, which are externally examined. Now let me unpack each part properly. The 2 big phases of Scottish secondary chemistry. Dear students, You must understand that secondary school chemistry teaching in Scotland has two clear phases, and they feel quite different in the classroom. The first phase is called the Broad General Education, which we abbreviate to BGE. The BGE covers S1, S2, and S3. So pupils aged 12 to 15 are in BGE. The second phase is called the Senior Phase. The Senior Phase covers S4, S5, and S6, and pupils aged 15 to 18 are in the Senior Phase. Why does this distinction matter? It matters because the way you teach in BGE is fundamentally different from the way you teach in the Senior Phase. Let me explain. In the BGE, your job is to teach broad scientific thinking. You teach across biology, chemistry, and physics ideas in many schools, although chemistry specialists usually focus on chemistry, topics in S2 and S3. You are not preparing pupils for a high-stakes external exam. You are preparing them to develop scientific curiosity, scientific literacy, and a love of investigation. The BGE is governed by something called the Sciences, Experiences and Outcomes, with their associated benchmarks. Every BGE lesson must connect back to those experiences and outcomes, and we will study them in detail in Lecture 2. In the Senior Phase, the experience changes. Now your pupils are choosing chemistry as a subject. They want to take an SQA qualification, National 5, then higher, then perhaps advanced higher. These qualifications are written and examined by the Scottish Qualifications Authority, abbreviated SQA. The SQA produces detailed course specifications, detailed past papers, detailed mark schemes, and detailed verification standards. So in the Senior Phase, you are teaching a precise SQA syllabus, and you are preparing your pupils for an externally marked examination and an assignment. So please remember this clearly, students. BGE equal to age 12 to 15, broad and exploratory, governed by experiences and outcomes. Senior Phase equal to age 15 to 18, precise and examined, governed by SQA course specifications. Same building, same pupils, but two different teaching mindsets. The qualifications hierarchy in the Senior Phase. Dear students, let me now walk you through the qualifications you will be teaching, because this is something every PGDE chemistry student must master before stepping into a school. The first qualification is called National 4 Chemistry. National 4 is internally assessed. There is no final external exam. Pupils complete unit assessments and an added value assignment. National 4 sits at SCQF Level 4. It is designed for pupils who are working at a foundation level in chemistry, often in S4. As a chemistry teacher, you must be able to teach National 4 with care and dignity, because for many pupils it is the qualification that opens the door to college courses, modern apprenticeships, or vocational pathways. The second qualification is called National 5 Chemistry, which sits at SCQF Level 5. National 5 has an external exam paper worth 100 marks, plus an assignment worth 20 marks, giving a total of 120 marks. National 5 is the bedrock of Senior Phase chemistry. It is the qualification taken by the largest number of pupils, usually in S4. National 5 covers three main areas: chemical changes in structure, nature's chemistry, and chemistry in society. So you will spend Module D of this course, teaching you every single topic at National 5 level. The third qualification is Higher Chemistry, which sits at SEQF Level 6. Higher is the most important qualification you will teach, because higher is the gateway to university, especially for medicine, dentistry, veterinary science, pharmacy, chemistry degrees, and other competitive courses. Higher is also externally examined with a 100% mark question paper and a 20-mark assignment. Higher Chemistry covers the same three areas as National 5, but in much greater depth, and with several entirely new topics. Module E of this course is dedicated to Higher Chemistry. The fourth qualification is Advanced Higher Chemistry, which sits at SEQF Level 7. Advanced Higher is genuinely impressive. It is the equivalent in conceptual demand to a first-year university chemistry course. It includes topics such as electronic configuration using s, p, and d orbitals, transition metal chemistry, NMR spectroscopy, infrared spectroscopy, mass spectrometry, stereochemistry, kinetics, thermodynamics with Gibbs free energy, and a full independent research project. Module F of this course is dedicated to Advanced Higher. So when somebody asks you, what chemistry will I be teaching as a Scottish secondary chemistry teacher? The honest answer is, across S1 to S6, you may be teaching everything from the basic particle theory of matter at age 12, all the way up to the Arrhenius equation and chiral synthesis at age 18. That is a huge range, and that is why this PGD year is so demanding and so rewarding. The key institutions you must know. Dear students, now I want to explain the key institutions in Scottish education, because as a teacher you will engage with all of them. Let me name them one by one and explain what each one does. First, the Scottish Government. The Scottish Government, through the Cabinet Secretary for Education, sets the overall policy direction. They decide things like the school starting age, funding for schools, and major reforms. Second, Education Scotland. Education Scotland is the national body responsible for supporting curriculum, learning and teaching. Education Scotland publishes the Curriculum for Excellence framework, the experiences and outcomes, the benchmarks, and a vast range of professional learning resources. Education Scotland also includes Her Majesty's Inspectors of Education, often shortened to HME, who inspect schools and produce inspection reports. Third, the Scottish Qualifications Authority, or SQA. The SQA is responsible for the qualifications I just described: National 4, National 5, Higher and Advanced Higher. The SQA writes the course specifications. The SQA writes the exams. The SQA marks the exams. The SQA verifies your school's internal assessment standards. As a chemistry teacher, you will use the SQA website almost every week of your career, downloading past papers, marking instructions, course specifications, and assignment guidance. Fourth, the General Teaching Council for Scotland, or GTCS. The GTCS is the regulatory body for teachers. You cannot teach in a Scottish state school unless you are registered with the GTCS. The GTCS sets the standards for the profession, the standard for provisional registration, the standard for full registration, and the standards for career-long professional learning and for leadership. As a PGDE student, your entire year is judged against the standard for provisional registration, which we will study in detail in Lecture 4. Fifth, your local authority. Scotland has 32 local authorities, sometimes called councils. Each council employs the teachers in its area and runs its schools. So, when you take up your first teaching post, you will be employed not by the Scottish Government, but by a local authority such as Glasgow City Council, Renfrewshire Council, East Renfrewshire, North Lanarkshire, or whichever council runs your school. Sixth, SERC, the Scottish Schools Education Research Centre. SERC is the body that supports practical science teaching in Scottish schools. SERC produces guidance on practical experiments, hazard data, risk assessment guidance, and runs professional learning courses for science teachers. As a chemistry teacher, you will rely on SERC throughout your career, and we will study SERC properly in Module C, especially in Lecture 13. And seventh, your university, which during your PGD year is either the University of Strathclyde or the University of Glasgow, depending on where you have enrolled. Your university is responsible for your initial teacher education. They deliver your university-based teaching, they organise your 2 school placements, and they assess you against the standard for provisional registration. When you successfully complete the PGD, your university recommends you to the GTCS for provisional registration. So that is the institutional landscape. The Scottish Government sets policy. Education Scotland supports curriculum. The SQA runs qualifications. The GTCS regulates teachers. Local authorities employ teachers. SERC supports science practical work. And university trains you.